Soon I will be on a mission to prove my worth. It was tiresome and it left me emotionally bankrupt. I became so fixated with helping everyone else and fixing everybody else's issues that mine lie dormant. I ignored them, I buried them, and my box got bigger and bigger. And then I met boyfriend C, my first love. He was somebody that I initially found arrogant and off-putting. I didn't like him at all. But he saw me. He saw stuff in me that I didn't even see in myself. It would take a long time before I can see the amazing things that other people saw in me. After hanging out for a bit, we started a relationship. I was in love. I was head over heels for that man. And it was nice. It really was. It was nice. He was caring, nurturing, but then I had a miscarriage. It happened out of the blue. I think I found out that I was pregnant, and then I was having cramps, and I went to the emergency room, and then you're supposed to take a test to verify that you're pregnant, and the baby passed right then and there. I became so numb and so disconnected from my emotions that I didn't even react. It happened, and then I said we had a miscarriage. And he was sad, but I had no emotion. I was like a shell. Continued our relationship. He was the first person that I was actually in a relationship with that reciprocated what I put out. That was nice because I didn't feel like I was trying to convince somebody to be with me. Like, he was there because he wanted to be there. But we both carried a lot of unresolved traumas from our past that we did not talk about, and they would soon bubble and come to head while we was in a relationship. Being in a relationship with boyfriend C, I didn't question my worth, but after a while, to hide my feelings and emotions, sex became that fix for me. Within our relationship, I was pregnant 2 more times. The second time, we sat down and decided that this wasn't the right time. But the last time, I made that decision on my own. As things start to surface in our relationship, I felt like he didn't want me anymore, and his actions would show that. I also didn't communicate how I was feeling. When I had the second abortion, he was crushed. Years later, and I learned that he didn't want me to do that. In that moment, he didn't speak up. I didn't want to feel like I was trying to trap a man to be with me. I didn't want to feel like I was only having a baby to save our relationship. I wanted our relationship. And when that relationship ended, I felt like I lost my best friend. I will soon go down a spiral of empty relationships, sex with men whenever I wanted. It morphed into like this desperate need for love, trying to fill this void. I felt like I lost the best thing in my life, and I was trying to replace it. On top of doing all of that, as I'm in the motion of doing it, I can't articulate why I'm doing it, but now that I'm older, obviously I can explain it. So relationships became my idol. I was abusing myself. It was not even the men at this point, it was me. I didn't like myself, I didn't like who I was, and I felt the only time that I felt of value, that I felt of worth, as if I was in a relationship with somebody and they was telling me that I was valuable. They was telling me I was worthy. They was telling me that I was loved. I could not do that for myself at all. I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea what it felt like, but other people telling it to me was something that I craved. I needed it. That relationship ended, and I was also going to school at that time, but because I was so low and I was so beat down and I just felt so worthless, I convinced myself that I wasn't smart enough. And I was approaching my 3rd year of college, and I dropped out. I always kept about 2 jobs and sometimes 3. I equated to success or the things that I was doing in my life to my worth, because I didn't know who I was. Like, who was Nafi if she wasn't working, if she wasn't in a relationship, if somebody wasn't telling her that she was loved? Although I grew up in church, after leaving my aunt's house, I would not go. God felt very distant, and I will soon take my frustration out on him, because we learned that, we're God's child and he loves us, and, we're worthy and we're all these things. But how can I honestly trust this Father in heaven when I felt like my own earthly father gave up on me? Like, if my earthly father gave up on me, why wouldn't my heavenly Father? Especially after all the damage that I've done. My 20s were a blur. It was a cycle of seeking love in all the wrong places, sleeping with men, partying. And the more and more empty that I felt, the more and more I stayed away from my family. I'll pop in on occasions, holidays, check in, show them that I'm alive. But like, to be around them and to be in their presence, they can't see me like this. I was on a mission. I was determined to fill the void in my life, and that was my only focus. Like, I'm not in school no more. I'm working countlessly, and then after that is clubs, bars, scoping out men. Like, I was on a hunt. Like, real talk. It was crazy. Like, when I sit down and I think about it, it was like, girl, you was bugging. The more and more I chased, the emptier and emptier I became. I felt worthless. I felt like a nobody. I felt like a nobody. And no one knows this. Like, no one knows this is how I was feeling. Because I told you guys earlier, I learned how to wear a mask. And I wore them proudly. It will always be Nafee's okay. And no, I don't want to talk about it. If you begin to ask me, am I okay? I will shut it down. Yeah, I'm okay, but how are you? Like, I'll flip it. I'll flip it real quick. But how are you? We're going to put the attention on you. I don't want the attention on me. Don't look at me. Don't look this way. We don't need to do nothing over here. Let's just keep partying. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. Each broken relationship, every soul tie that I came in contact with, every person that I laid down and slept with, I carry a shadow of regret and shame. It was like a cloud following me. And by the time I looked up and saw what my life was becoming, I was 27, had a total of 7 abortions, and I was a shell of a person. I felt worthless. And I knew that the love that I was seeking, I was not going to find it in a relationship. So I will go back to the foundation that my grandmother taught me. I felt like God was distant, but I was actually distant from him. So I went back. But little did I know that God was right around the corner waiting for me. He opened his arms and he welcomed me back home. But it will still be time before I will fully surrender to a life with him. So now I am back in church. I am working on building and connecting with God. And I got right back in. I'm serving in different ministries. I'm in a choir, praise team, praise dancer. I am doing all of the things. But the sermons was not, they was going in one ear and out the other. It still was a void. It still was something missing. And now I know that there was a big difference between being around God and being in a relationship with God. Hear me out. A lot of us, me included, know how to do church. But after we leave the church doors, do we apply the word and the Bible to our lives? And I wasn't doing that. So I'm in the presence of God. I'm around God. I'm serving and doing all these things. But I wasn't in it. You understand what I'm saying? We play church a lot. But is God with you? Is he in your heart? Like, do you carry him everywhere you go? Are you applying his word to your life? And I was not doing that. When I learned how to really have a relationship with God, I then began to look at myself differently. But that's going to come a little later. But now, I'm in church, I'm doing all the things, and I'm 27, and I meet a guy who is, I meet a man who is 25 years my senior, and we got in a relationship. Y'all, I ain't had no business in this relationship. I had no business talking to this man, flirting with this man, this grown man. I had no business. But I did. I did it anyway. And the relationship chipped at my self-esteem because a few months of us dating, it turned physically, mentally, verbally abusive. Here I am thinking that I'm getting my life together, a little more confident, a little more wiser. Girl, please. I still had low self-esteem. And I heard this quote that it said, broken people attract broken people. That's some true-ish. Because although I'm looking young and dumb, I'm looking like, oh, this man is so much older, he's so much more mature, it will be so much better. Child, please. So now I'm in this relationship. This relationship not only chipped away at my self-esteem, but it changed who I was as a person. But I was determined to find worth. I was determined to make something of my life. And I enrolled back in school. And remember, I told you earlier that I convinced myself that I wasn't smart enough, and entering my third year of college, I dropped out. When I dropped out of college, I had this advisor who was the sweetest woman ever. When I dropped out, she said that she will always stay in contact with me, and she did. She will email me, check on me, and always encourage me to come back and finish what I started. So when I decided I wanted to go back, I emailed her. Lo and behold, she was still there, and she made a joke with me. She said, when you finish school, she said, I may finish everything. When you graduate, she said, I'm gonna retire. I was like, girl, stop. So I applied, and I got accepted, and I enrolled back in school. So while I'm in this toxic relationship, school is my lifeline. Once I graduate school, I'll be in such a better space financially that I can leave. Though I had a job when me and this guy was together, he used finances too to manipulate me. But during that time, God started speaking to me to create, because I was trying to find myself. I really was trying to find my way. I felt like I spent my whole life trying to find my way. So I was thinking about a lot of things. Shoes, jewelry, like all types of stuff. I searched, dabbled in, and tried to figure out. But in that relationship, I created a cosmetic brand. Why cosmetics, you ask? Because I had low self-esteem, and I was trying to bring out this beauty that other people saw in me. I was trying to bring it out so I can see it within myself. So I created the brand. I started the brand. I built the brand. I sold the brand. I did a back to school drive with the brand with one of my friends. It was going good, but darkness prevailed. That relationship went from bad to worse. Now I'm starting to get a little more confident. I'm starting to come outside a little more, starting to pop in on family a little more. And he ain't like that. Relationship was a constant battle. It was control, manipulation. That man tore me down every chance he got. And then will say he loved me and bring me flowers and buy me gifts. And one weekend, me and my best friend went to visit her family down south. I was so excited to get out and, hang around my friends again, because I wasn't even hanging around with my friends when I was in a relationship with him. But me and my best friend went down south. Came back. He picked us up from the bus station. And I immediately was happy. I was like happy to see him, so excited, telling him about my trip. He just picked a fight with me out of nowhere. He thought I was down south cheating on him. I can't even remember half the stuff that he came up with, but it sounded crazy. Dropped my friend off, went home, and he fractured my rib. I remember going to the emergency room. The pain was so bad that I couldn't even like point to where it was hurting. So she was like, oh, we're gonna do an x-ray. She did an x-ray and she said, your ninth rib is fractured. What happened? And I'm like, oh, I was cleaning up in the house and I tripped over the arm of the sofa. I want you to go sit on your sofa if you're not already, and I want you to put your arms on your sofa. Where my ninth rib is, like in the back, for you to fall and trip on the arm of the sofa and then fracture it, it's impossible. So the nurse was like, are you sure? She basically was like, you lying. Girl, you're lying. That's what she wanted to say to me. Sis, you lying. One day, my sister called me and was like, I need to see you. Like, oh my God, what did I do? After he fractured my rib, I was praying to God for a way out. I didn't have the confidence to say I don't want to do this relationship anymore. I didn't have the money to just up and leave. Back to my sister. My sister said, I need to see you. I go to my sister's house. Oh, she talking to me. She asked me how things going. I said, oh, everything is okay. And then she's asking me about the relationship. She like real just stern with it. You don't sound happy. I was like, it's okay. It's okay. So we're talking. Then she proceeded to say, what, he hitting on you? When I say heart drop, I was like, why would you say that? Where you get that from? If God was not trying to throw me a life vest in that moment, you know how we be praying to God and then he sent us all these answers and we just let it go by. Child, if I would have told my sister that man was putting his hands on me, you know how fast she would have moved me up out that apartment? But no, not Nafi. She wants to fix it. I have to feel like I'm not the problem because I feel like because he keeps putting his hands on me and he keeps hurting me, I'm the problem. Like, what am I doing wrong? I cannot let this go without me figuring out why. So I lied to my sister and I told her, no, we good. She ain't believe me. I know she didn't believe me. Because she ain't never liked him. This toxic relationship will bleed into every area of my life. When I say he tormented me, he not only tormented me, he stalked my friends online. He followed ex-boyfriends. He would read my diary. And I just stayed away. Now I'm just like, now I'm not even coming around. I feel like so defeated. And I'm like, God help. My other best friend called me and said, hey, my church is doing this fast. You want to do a fast with me? I have never done a fast before. So I was a little nervous about it. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. A part of the fast was to abstain from food. We was only allowed to drink water. We had to create goals for ourselves. And we read a book. It was called Colliding with Destiny by Sarah Jakes Roberts. That book changed my life. So now it's a 21-day fast and I'm fasting and I'm praying and I'm asking God, I want a do-over. I need a do-over. I want a fresh start. I want to start over. I need to start over. At this point, I'm distant from my family. They barely know me. Like, I'm partying out of control. I'm idolizing men in relationships, and I keep getting into these toxic situations. Like, this is not love. Like, I don't want this. Like, I want a do-over. I want a clean slate. These were my exact words in my journal back in 2016. I want a clean slate. Everything that is connected to this man, get rid of it. Hold on to that. I said everything connected to this man, get rid of it. So I'm reading this book, Colliding with Destiny, and Sarah, I felt like she was just speaking directly to me. Like, the book was so powerful. At the end of the 21-day fast, I sat that man down on the couch and I said, I'm done. I'm out of here. Can't do this. Don't want to do this no more. And I was shaking. Tears rolling down my face. And he said, okay. And I was like, okay, maybe he has identified that he a little, so we good. Here I am thinking that we just want to part ways. Oh, there is more. Had to close the business down. We packed up our things because we had the apartment together. Both of our names was on the lease, so we decided to leave together. Landlord of the building loved me, so he let me break the lease. I didn't owe anything to anybody. I can just leave, clean slate, and start over. So I'm like, oh, I can pack up all my stuff and put it in storage. I had a lot of clothes and pictures and awards. I basically had my life from 18 when I left home to 27 at that point. We packed everything up and I'm like, oh, I can call one of my boys to help me move the stuff into storage. And child, that turned into a fight. I don't want no man in my house. So in my mind, I'm like, I could just call my brother or my sister's husband, tell him to come help me. But I'm like, oh crap, I can't do that because they're gonna ask me why we ended, why we breaking up, what happened. Like, he gonna want details. Like, and when he want details, or my sister's husband want details, he ain't letting up. He want to know the story, the whole story, and nothing but the story. So I'm like, I can't call him. And at this point, who gonna help me move all of my stuff into storage? So he like, oh, no worries. I gotta put my stuff in storage too. So we went, picked out the storage unit. So he had one side and I had the other side. So here I am thinking that this man is mature and we're just gonna end this relationship and just go our separate ways. I went to work and he moved the stuff into storage. Still me trying to figure out what I did wrong. I'm still trying to have a friendship with this person. I'm still having I did not know what was wrong with me. I didn't understand it. When you ask God to remove things from your life and he removes them, don't go back. Still trying to be friendly with him, still trying to be a cordial person. He said, let's go out to dinner. So went out to dinner. We eating dinner. Here I am at dinner with this man. He drove. Big mistake. He drove instead of me driving myself. Anyway, the whole thing was a mistake. I shouldn't have went nowhere. I remember I had this cute spaghetti strap dress on and we get into an argument and I said, I can't do this. Just take me home, please. Like, this is too much. When I say I got in that car and that man started beating the crap out of me, like he's driving with one hand and knocking me in my face with the other hand. Ripped my dress. I was in that car devastated. And this is not even the worst part. Then we get on the highway and he's doing like 100. He has a big truck. So at any point I'm feeling like we're gonna flip over. I'm praying like, God, please, if you get me out of this situation, I will leave this man to dust. Like, I will leave him alone. This man started speeding down this highway, swerving back and forth, and said, if I can't have you, nobody can. We gonna die today. That man tried to kill us because I didn't want to be in a relationship with him. When I say he dropped me back off home, forced himself in my apartment, fought because I wanted him to get out of my apartment. I slammed the door, and as I was proceeding to put the lock on and latch the chain, he kicked the door off the hinges. When I say traumatized, I was traumatized. We gonna call this Negro boyfriend F. That whole relationship was the most toxic, suffocating experience I ever had in my life. And this is why I'm telling you, when God removes you from something, you do not go back. You don't go back. You move forward. You look forward. But I thank God that he still had his hand on me, because but let me tell you one thing. I stayed my butt in school. All that chaos was happening, but I ain't drop out of school. I stayed my butt right in there. Yep, I sure did. And I settled into my new apartment now, finally. And so the last thing that I need from boyfriend F is my clothes out of storage. He said, oh, I'll bring them to you. I said, okay. He brought me 1 box. I said, sir, where's the rest of my stuff? This was all you had. And I said, you were... That man trashed all of my things. I left that relationship with my life, thank you Jesus, and a box of clothes. But now let me tell you what was inside of this box. Like 4 dresses, a jacket, a pair of jeans, and I think a pair of shoes. Now remember I told you that I prayed a prayer. God, everything that's connected to this man, remove it. You'll see what happens next.